Holland and head coach Kris Knoblauch. Please raise your hand, wait for the microphone. We're going to start third row on the left side, Ryan.
Two questions for you, Kris, both about your lineup. Looks like Warren Foegele was skating today on the line and draws in. Maybe just a thought on if you're playing him, the change there and why.
Whether he comes in game one or game whatever, we'll see him sometime in the lineup. I think what he provides us is a little bit of offense. Obviously, scoring 20 goals this season, 40 plus points. Also, just another guy who adds some more speed to our team. So, obviously, we took him out of the lineup, which wasn't easy for us to do after the year he had, but it's nice to have the opportunity to put him back in.
Philip Broberg was skating on the right side today. I know you tried that with him a little bit in the past, but is he playing well enough? Do you feel he might be ready for that challenge on this stage?
Well, throughout his career, he spent a lot of time on his offside. Through this year, more on the left side than the right. But we feel that the way he's been playing and his skills that he has, he's very adaptable to move on to his offside.
On the right side, second row.
Hey, Kenny. I was talking to Bobrovsky today, and he was very impressed with Stuart Skinner in his second year, making it all the way to Stanley Cup Final. He said he was a backup in his second year. I just want to ask both of you, I guess, if you can weigh in on this, on that decision earlier this year to say, you're our guy, you sent Jack down to the American League. What did you see in him? And it was a kind of a gutsy decision to make, but maybe you give me both of your thoughts on why you made that decision.
You talking about when we put Jack on waivers?
Yeah, we put Jack on waivers.
We just lost in Vancouver 6-0. I think we were 2-7-1. I felt that needed to do something. Almost going to be impossible to make a trade. You're 10 games into the season. Needed to do something to jolt the team. Made a decision to call both goalies in. Dustin and I were in Vancouver and told Jack he was going on waivers. And he was going to, if he cleared, he was going to be going to the minors. And I called Stu in and told him it was his opportunity to grab the reins. We believed in him. He had won 29 games last year. Was a finalist for the Calder Trophy. He was 24 years of age. It was his time. And then obviously we lost Thursday night in San Jose and made a decision on Friday to hire Kris Knoblauch, and Kris came in. I think we won in Seattle on Saturday, and Kris came in. But certainly, Kris was a big reason why we got the season turned around, and also Stu Skinner's play. I think, we weren't playing very good. I think Stu was .855 saves percentage. Jack Campbell was .870 at the time. I knew both goalies were better. I knew we could play better team defense, but I felt that the team needed a jolt. Certainly believed in Stu Skinner, and I think he's one of the really good top young netminders in the game, and he grabbed the reins and took it from there.
Just thought on Stu, I guess.
Yeah, since I've been here, I've been very impressed with him, and there hasn't been very many poor performances. I think he's been very solid, and anytime he has had a poor performance, he's always responded and played really well for me. So I know my time in Edmonton, there's been a lot of talk about goaltending and what we've had. From my point of view, Stu and Picks have been a great tandem for us throughout the season.
Left side, third row.
Kris, you spoke earlier this week about the interviewing with Paul in Winnipeg, and I'm just wondering if you can sort of take us back what that process was like, what you remember about it, and how that relationship has grown.
We met in a hotel, talked for, I don't know, whatever an interview is, and other than that, we haven't really stayed in touch very much. I reached out to him, I think it was 2017 when I was taking a job for the Philadelphia Flyers, and other than that, I don't know if we've talked besides that. So, obviously the first time I met him, or before I met him, I heard a lot of positive things about him. I had somebody who worked with him, not in with the Winnipeg Jets, not as a coach, but just knew him very well. spoke very highly of him. So when I met him, everything that he had told me about him, I felt was true. Very genuine, very nice person. And, I reached out to him, and he followed up and said yes, he'd help if I had any questions or something like that. But other than that, we haven't spoken very much.
Left side, second row.
Hey, Ken, you come here 5 years ago, right here, Ken.
Okay, yeah.
How are you?
You got yourself, yeah.
You come here 5 years ago, and you have, you got a team with a young Connor McDavid, a generational player. Everyone's, by that point, he's the best player in the game. You had good players in Detroit when you were there, I know you have, but when you come to this project with that player, was there any special pressure to get to this point, when you have tools like that to work with?
Yeah, for sure, but I also, I've been at this a long time. I think I said at the press conference, you just don't come in and wave magic wands. You got to build. Certainly, Peter Chiarelli and his people did a great job in drafting Stu Skinner, drafting Bouchard, drafting McLeod, drafting Vinny Desharnais. There's one or two others, and they needed some time to become NHL players. So you're trying to put players in to get competitive, all the while behind the scenes trying to believing that people are going to develop into bigger roles. So I think that that's what we do. Great job by Peter Chiarelli, and then as we've gone along, some things have turned out, some things haven't turned out. But certainly, I knew we had a core. I knew we had Connor. We knew we had Leon. I was 3,000 miles away. I knew they were great young players. I didn't know a lot about them as people, but learned very quickly that they had a lot of determination, a lot of pride, a lot of push. They were team players. They were motivated, and that's a massive start to. And then along the way, there's been some, that Chicago series. The first year we were there, it's a summer series in the playoffs. We lose 3-1. They got Duncan, Keith, and Taze, and they've got veteran people. And I thought the next year we played Winnipeg, and we played we got swept, but 3 of the games were, I think, 0-0, 1-1, 2-2. We were playing what I believe playoff hockey. I saw what Scotty Bowman did in Detroit in the mid-90s, and the importance of learning to check, to compete, and that's what Kris Knoblauch is come in. I think done a great job with our team. We're getting more and more. We're comfortable now in low-scoring games. We're comfortable, when there's adversity and you think it's 3-2 in Vancouver with 4 or 5 minutes to go and the place is going crazy. How we were able to kind of hang on and get that win, and then the other night against Dallas, it's 2-1. And I think that's on the players and being in those moments, and I think it's also on the job that Kris has done as coach.
Front left.
Ken, following up on Mark's question, can you put into words, now that you've lived it for 5 years, what it is to be a GM of a Canadian team, wanting to get here, the 31-year cup drought, the scrutiny that comes with being the GM in a passionate market like Edmonton? Is there ever a time where you said, why did I do this?
No, I've loved every moment. Pierre, the National Hockey League is a roller coaster ride. It's if you think you're just going to be on top and you're going to go sailing along on top, you should get another business, because I'll advise you right off the bat, you're in the wrong business. There's going to be lows and there's going to be highs, and we're in this business for the highs, but you gotta have thick skin for the lows. And sometimes you're going to make some decisions that, if you make 10 decisions, you got to make 7 or 8 good ones. 1 or 2 or 3 aren't going to work out, and you hope that they're not too bad. Love the passion. I was fortunate to work in 2 franchises in Detroit, now in Edmonton, that great fan bases. That's why you come to the rink, is because what you're doing is important to people. And certainly in Edmonton, what we do on an everyday basis, what the players do, is important to those fans, to that city. And I know that when you're 2-9-1, they're not happy. We're not happy, So, but that's important. You'd rather be than where somebody else goes and somewhere else and finds something else to do. They're with you. They're in it. So it's been an incredible run, and thrilled to have this opportunity.
Back right.
And following up on Mark and Pierre's question, you said you didn't know Connor or Leon as people before you came to Edmonton. You know them now, this many years later. Certainly we all know them as players. What do you know about them that you didn't know before you got to
I didn't know how driven, competitive, team-driven, sacrifice, commitment. Those are all words and they're intangibles, but certainly I learned those things in Detroit around lots of great players and the leadership. And if you're going anywhere, as we sit here today in the final, both teams have it. Like you don't fluke this league. You need skill, and you need an engine, and that engine of those group of players have got to drive your team on and off the ice come to the rink every day. They practice hard, they compete, they sacrifice, and when you're 3,000 miles away and I'm in Detroit, I see the points, I see the assists, I see the highlights, but you don't to be in every day to watch how they practice, how they're competitive, how they're driven. Those are things that when you live with people and you're on the bus and you go to practice. Those are the things you see, and those are the things that I didn't know, and they're all world on the ice and all world off the ice.
Closer to Eiserman and Lindstrom, or that's it?
You know what? I don't want to compare players. I've been really lucky to watch those players, but these are two of the greatest players that I've ever seen.
Front left.
Kris, Ken just mentioned, you get to this point, both teams have it. It seems like two very different styles of teams, the way you guys play, the way Florida plays. As a coach, does that get you geeked up to want to play the X's and O's in a series like this that could be two very different styles, and whoever gets there wins it?
I think, obviously they have their style and we have ours, and, there's little tweaks that we can make to our game plan, but if we're making too many changes, it just, we're not who we are, and we aren't the same team that got us here. And as a coach, you have to be careful how many changes you make to a team, because the more changes you make, the more things that are going on in their heads and more analyzing they're doing. And it's about the players and them performing and them playing at ease. So if we're changing our systems and what we want to do and focusing so much on Florida, we're handicapping our players. So, obviously there's been a lot of talk about Florida being an aggressive, hard-hitting, tight checking team. We're prepared for that. We saw, not so much Dallas. Dallas was a different team, but Vancouver, LA, they were just as aggressive. You look at the hits per game throughout the playoffs, they're very similar, if not more, those other teams that I just mentioned than Florida. So yes, we're expecting them to finish our checks as much as possible and not slow us down, but we'll hopefully be able to make some plays and get around that.